Let's bring in Sarah Sanders, Fox News contributor, former White House press secretary. Sarah, welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be with you guys this morning.
So the president laid out a framework on Thursday, and he said this is what you need to do to get through phase 1, 2, and 3. And then a little bit later on, he tweeted out support for those protesting. Do you believe you could do both, lay out a framework and support protesters and use the term liberate?
Look, there's nobody who wants to reopen the government more than President Trump. He wants to see people getting back to work. He's a businessman at heart, and he wants businesses in this country to be able to open, to be able to thrive. At the same time, he has maintained social distancing guidelines, and I think people need to take those seriously. I think at the end of the day, millions of Americans are frankly frustrated. They're watching liberal politicians like Nancy Pelosi go on TV and on social media parading around, flashing their $13 a pint ice cream in their faces when they don't have $13 to feed their families. There's no doubt that they're frustrated, as a lot of these people that depend on small businesses are angry that they're not opening back up, that their federal government is delaying more funding that we're seeing that from Pelosi and the Democrats just over the last couple of weeks. And as we saw Kevin McCarthy talking about earlier, people are getting angry, they're getting upset, and they want people, out-of-touch politicians like Nancy Pelosi, to start paying attention to the real needs that they have and helping them step up and meet those. At the end of the day, Congress gets paid whether they show up to work or not, and they don't understand sometimes that people that have to show up in order to get a paycheck and can't are frustrated.
Some of these protesters, you're right, are angry, the ones that are showing up for these protests, because they don't want to stay at home. They want to be able to go outside and do things as long as they're with their family and they're following the rules. So we saw all these protests over the weekend. We're going to see 10 across the country today. And some of them are holding up signs, Sarah, that say, like, in the virus, not the economy. I read one that said, every day that goes by, you're hurting our state. And another guy says, it's not worth, he said, the shutdown and economic costs not worth the few lives that it will save. So Nancy Pelosi was asked about it, and this is what she says.
Can you understand why they're doing that?
No, not really, because what we have to do is shelter in place. That is really the answer. Testing, tracing, treatment, shelter in place. And I do think that it's unfortunate. But, you know, people will do what they do. But the fact is we're all impatient. We all want out. But what they're doing is really unfortunate.
Sarah, what's your reaction?
Frankly, I think what's unfortunate is that an out-of-touch multimillionaire like Nancy Pelosi is holding up the funding that would help these people not just save lives, but save livelihoods. This has been an intense focus of the president, is protecting both parts of the American way of life, both protecting individual health and life of Americans across the country, as well as making sure we're protecting their livelihoods. And Nancy Pelosi, you can see that she frankly just doesn't understand the frustration of people who need their jobs or need funding through these small business package and legislation in order to get their paychecks and keep things moving. She just, frankly, I think showed exactly why she is so out of touch, and I think that's the most unfortunate thing about it, is that she's one of the people making decisions for everybody else in this country, but she doesn't understand the pain and the hurt and the suffering that these people are going through, because she's not having to suffer or experience any of that herself, because she has that cushion and that financial security that most Americans don't have.
You know, Sarah, I think the average American watching this right now, they're worried about their health, they're worried about their wealth, they wonder when this ends. And when they see people who are playing politics with this during a time of a global pandemic, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, I've seen it play on both sides of the aisle, the person at home just goes, can't we get this solved first? Because it's just, it just seems tone deaf.
Absolutely, and I don't think that there's probably anything more disheartening than seeing Washington being completely dysfunctional at a time when we need it to come together more than ever to help the people of this country. I think one of the great things that has taken place over the last several weeks is we've seen the heart of America. We've seen people step up and help their neighbors. We've seen so many signs of people showing compassion and love in a way that we don't get to always appreciate, that we don't slow down to take. I think Washington needs to pay attention to some of that compassion and some of that love that everyday Americans are constantly showing, and try to reflect some of that and move quickly to get things done and make sure that people have the resources and the things that they need to continue and to carry on with their way of life. This is America. We still continue to be the greatest country on the face of the planet. Let's act like it. Let's get things done. Let's make sure we're taking good care of people. I think the president has been a strong leader on that front, and we need to rally around him. We need to rally around our governors, our doctors, our nurses, and not politicize this fight, but really focus on the solutions instead of the attacks.
Right, Sarah, no matter what they agree on Wednesday or Thursday, it could have been done a week to 10 days ago. There's really no excuse. And there's only one person who delayed it, and she's got really nice refrigerators. That's all I can say. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.